Hey everybody, it's good to see you. I'm here with my friend and colleague Rebecca Karcher. We're here to talk a little bit about this week's Lenten activity.
Discipline.
Lenten discipline. And I know you've been paying attention, but if you've been thinking about it, we've talked about these traditional Lenten disciplines, but we've tried to think about them slightly differently in some way, or to encourage us all to think of them maybe in some ways that are different, right? For example, when we talked about fasting, we said it wasn't just about food or, the way we construct that, but it can be about any number of things that help us think about our lives a little more deeply and our relationships with each other and how we can use this time to think about ourselves, but also the people who are around us.
Yeah. And not just kind of default to, oh yeah, that's what that always means.
Right. It can mean a whole lot of things. But this week, we're talking about almsgiving. Almsgiving, or an offering, right? Something that we give. We can think of it sacrificially, that there's something over and above, or it just is part of the habit and the cycle and the rhythm of our lives. Mm-hmm. But one of the things frequently, at least in church, we speak about that as money. And that's an important thing, no doubt about it. But also, we like to talk about how the most valuable thing you have is your time, right? It's limited. Yeah. You only have so much. Sometimes we don't know exactly how much, but we only have so much of it. All of us have the same amount of it every day, 24 hours, all of those minutes, 60 minutes in an hour and so. But to help us think about that, right, we cooked up an interesting idea.
So, a lot of times the default answer for some of us is, I don't have time to do that. I'm so busy. My calendar's so full. I'm guilty of that. But we thought, okay, let's look at what we have time to do. And it's sometimes easier to toss a few dollars at something and think, okay, I've done my part. But really, if you these little timers that you can pick up the sands of time in this hourglass are 5 minutes long. And we thought, first of all, almost everybody can probably carve out 5 minutes of their very, very busy schedule. And if you want to see how long 5 minutes is, get on a treadmill. But other than that, just turn the hourglass over and maybe just sit for a moment and watch the whole thing. Watch the whole 5 minutes. I am pretty certain you're going to feel like it's a lot longer than 5 minutes. And then when you start thinking of what can I do in those 5 minutes that might help somebody else, there's a long list of things. It can be enough time for you to send a text to someone who you haven't seen in a while. It's enough time to make a quick phone call to someone that isn't feeling well or is maybe a little bit lonely. You can write off a quick card and stick in the mail. You can pet a dog if you're a dog petter.
You said pet a dog. Wow.
I would pet a cat. But there's a lot you can actually do in 5 minutes that will make a little impact on somebody else's life. And you can even do more than 5 minutes in a day if you want.
Right. And even one of the things I thought of is and you're correct, 5 minutes isn't a long time until you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right? As Rebecca said, that if you've ever been on a treadmill, rowing machine, anything, you know how long 10 seconds is? It is forever. Right? You know how long 5 minutes is? I just flipped this over while we were talking. And maybe some of it could be to take 5 minutes to think about what you might do with your time. That really, there's a lot in that. And it's meaningful.
It is meaningful. And another thing that you might consider doing with those 5 minutes is giving yourself a 5-minute break. I know that it feels like way too much to ask sometimes to get to the gym or to take a walk or to take a nap. But if you can take 5 minutes and just give yourself time to breathe, maybe listen to music, maybe just look out a window, 5 minutes can be restorative.
Well, yeah, and one of the ways we could say that in churchy talk, so 5 minutes to pray, but that doesn't mean always folding your hands, bowing your heads, and like, oh God, now what do I say?
Yeah.
Where one of the traditional disciplines, at least in Ignatian prayer, is to think about where you've been, what's happened in your life in these last 5 minutes, or at least over the course of the day that precedes this time, to take 5 minutes and say, I'm going to think about what's happened so far today and what do I hope for in the rest of my day.
Or even just to see how many things you can look at in those 5 minutes for which you're grateful. Maybe there's photos of your family. Maybe there's a beautiful scene out your window. Maybe there's, all kinds of things.
So take your 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
We're not quite done yet. We're going to be done by the time this one's out. So
It's been a long 5 minutes, right?
See what we mean? See what we mean. So take your 5 minutes. Think a little bit about how can you use that time in some unexpected way. And if you have any comments or thoughts about it,
Share.
we look forward to hearing you share back with us. Hey, have a great week.
Thanks.